everybody. Welcome to Real Talk number 5. Today, I'd like to talk about marketing yourself and selling your book outside of the internet. So, in real life. So, this is something that some people do take advantage of, especially in the comic world, when it comes to comic book conventions and events. However, I see a lot of novelists aren't really taking advantage of, trying to sell themselves outside of the internet. Now, of course, it's easier on the internet, right? You are able to say whatever you need to say without being face to face. It's a lot more comfortable, and it kind of takes out that fear, right, of misspeaking, even though some people do misspeak on the internet as well. But, the internet, you only have so much reach, and when you think about your local potential customer base, it's very, very likely that nobody in your local area or very few are actually seeing what you're doing online. And most people live, at least an hour or two within a decent sized city. And then you're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that you could get your books in front of. Now, I live in just a medium to small sized city, but I've actually found a lot of success in getting my books in front of people, like live, right, in real life. So first I want to talk about comic book conventions. Now this actually applies for both novelists and comic book creators. Now there are some investments that are needed, of course, with banners, displays, etc. But if you have really eye-popping and exciting cover art, it'll bring people to your table. So I'm going to do a separate video on how important cover art is, but from my own experience, I've done one comic book convention since the release of my Vigilantes Creed novel series, and I did it before I had all of the mini comics ready, and it was really successful. And it was a really small convention, and I was in a really bad location, up against the wall, kind of towards the back end of the convention. It wasn't one of those conventions where everyone was moving in a circular motion where you could make sure you see everyone as you're walking around. This was one that had basically just, horizontal rows going right up against the walls. But nevertheless, it went really well. I recovered all of my costs for all of my banners and marketing materials, as well as the convention fee or table fee, and then a profit on top, a decent one. So, and I didn't have comics, right? And I was at a comic book convention. However, the cover art was exciting enough for folks to come to my table and spark up a conversation. Now, there are different types of, I guess, selling approaches when it comes to, in-person selling. A lot of people, or some people, like to try to pull people in, right, by talking to them, getting a little bit excited or hyperbolic. To me, I'm not a big fan of that. For me, I just like to have my cover art pull someone towards the table, and once you make eye contact, just say, hey, how are you doing? Do you have any questions? Or you can just say, hey, I have 2 novels, right, about a gargoyle and a team of vigilantes fighting terror in Detroit. It's Lovecraftian. If you're a fan of Batman, Hellboy, etc. You just come up with a nice quick pitch just to pull them right up to your table and to get them to open up the book and start looking at it. And from there, you also have the ability to kind of negotiate, which is not something you can do online, right? If you have extras like prints, cards, you can easily say, hey, if you pick up both books, I can give you 2 prints and 2 bookmarks for free. And a lot of times that'll kind of push them over the edge. It's like, oh, cool, I get all this stuff. Or if they really want it, but they're like, oh, I only have so much money left, you can help somebody out and say, hey, I'll take $5 off. Point is, you got to put yourself out there. You got to get out in front of people and just try it, right? You may not make a profit your first convention. It may just be a learning experience, or it could go extremely well. The point of this entire topic, from my perspective, is just getting yourself out there, right? Putting in that extra effort and, trying to put aside any fears or, discomforts of dealing with people face to face, because it will really help you get yourself out there. You might be able to sell 20, 30 plus books, right? Whether it's comics or novels, in just a matter of a couple hours, right? Most people that put their stuff on Indiegogo or Amazon, I mean, geez, it might take weeks, if not months, to get 20, 30 sales. So imagine how much more productive you can be in person, especially when you can really elaborate on your story, on your characters. That's kind of tough to do on Twitter because people are just scrolling, right? They're looking for pictures, they're looking for clickbait, things like that. Well, in person, you have them one on one. So I highly encourage, obviously, comic book creators, but even novelists, go try some comic book conventions. Just try one. Make sure you have a nice thought out display. It doesn't have to be really expensive or fancy. Just make it pull people to your table. And again, if you're a novelist, don't be afraid of the fact that it's for comic books. There are plenty of people that are willing to buy novels there, stuff that's unique, right? So that's what's really exciting from a novelist perspective, because you have people walking around. There's tons of comic book creators, right? People have, kind of limited funds, and they're thinking, oh, it's just going to be comics here. Well, for those novel readers, when they come across your table, like, oh man, there's a novel. This is exciting. They might pick up your book. The other thing outside of comic book conventions is, I mean, farmers markets, right? Little events in your town or city where for a very low cost or no cost, you can just put up a table and sell. I've had really good success, believe it or not, with farmers markets and coffee shops. Farmers markets, it could be like maybe $50, just invest in a cheap plastic table. Again, decent display. If you've made your money back from a convention, then you don't have to worry about, paying future, display costs per se. And again, I've done a couple farmers markets, and I also, I have a local comic or a coffee shop that I go to, several times a week. And the owner was there once, and I just asked him, like, hey, I'm a local author. Would you mind if I just put up a table, one Saturday and just put my books out for sale? Just let people approach. I'm not going to be pushing sales. Just if they're interested, they can stop by. And so far, I've done 2 farmers markets, and I've done a couple hours twice at that coffee shop, and I've sold over 40 books. That's not bad for a novelist, right? Because these are just random people that are not even there specifically looking for books. They're just people that walked by your table, you piqued their interest, and they bought it. So it wasn't a targeted event, and I was still able to sell over 40 books, which, again, that could take weeks to do online, whether it's through Twitter, through, Amazon, etc. So I was really glad I did that. And then, those people then can go to your Indiegogo if you have more products, or Amazon, you give them a QR code, you give them a card, they follow you on Twitter, and it's part of that domino effect of growth, right? Getting more followers, getting more backers. And I've picked up backers from those farmers markets, from the coffee shops. So it was just a matter of just thinking outside the box, like, how can I get in front of people? Go on Facebook, go on Google, just look up events in your area, reach out. The worst thing they can say is no. This goes back to the same kind of line of thinking when it comes to promotion, right? If you don't ask, you won't get success from asking that question. So asking for promotion, the worst thing they can say is no. So be it. But if they say yes, you get a bunch of backers or followers from it, you definitely going to look back and be like, man, I'm glad I did that. I would have regretted not doing this. Same thing with these coffee shops, farmers markets, comic book conventions. You got to try, you got to learn from them, but it's all about putting yourself out there, and it's growth over time. I think people that are new need to just understand, it's not going to happen overnight. This could take years, but you got to put in that effort. And so I highly recommend people just think, where can I go to put my books out and try to get sales. And hopefully they'll refer you to others. If they follow you, they're going to see your future products or books. So it's really important, again, to try to market yourself outside of the internet. I mean, I've had very, very good success with Twitter, not so much with Facebook, but I've sold well over 100 books in person over the last few months. And I'm very happy about that. And I have to remind myself, like, hey, if I forget for a couple of weeks to see what other events are out there, I got to remind myself, hey, look, see if there's something you can do on a Saturday or Sunday, a place you can just put up a table and get your books out there. If you can sell a couple hundred through the course of a year, on with these events, I mean, that's fantastic. And you can try to lock them in, lock them into a sign-up list or whatnot, mailing list, future projects, right? It's about getting reoccurring readers and backers, customers, or whatnot. So, I think a lot of people get comfortable with just promoting on the internet, just selling on the internet. And I think some people also give up a bit too easy, right? When they see that they're not getting much traction on Indiegogo or on Amazon, they feel like they failed, or, there really isn't an upside. Try doing it in person. You may get a completely different reaction, and you may be able to get, again, more followers and things like that to then later on support doing a campaign again or putting a book on Amazon. But you have to explore all options. It's, to me, very, very important, especially if you're a new person, again, without a following. If you didn't have a previous endeavor that brought you a bunch of followers or subscribers, you've got to look everywhere, right, and take advantage of that. And even if it's not an event specific to what you're making, doesn't matter. It's still worth a shot. All it is some time. Maybe it's a little bit of cost, but you got to have that mindset of, I'm going to go in, I'm going to try to sell, I'm going to get this money back. So that is my experience and my thoughts towards, selling and marketing yourself outside of the internet. The other thing too is you can ask coffee shops and places of business to put up a poster, right? Put up just a little banner with QR codes and all that. All you have to do is ask. I almost forgot too. Just because you're not traditionally published doesn't mean you can't get into retailers. Go to your local bookshops, your local comic book shops, and just ask them, hey, would you be willing to sell my books on consignment? There's no investment for them. You just keep an inventory. I mean, you can do a contract or something, but when they sell the books, they keep a percentage of the sale, and then you get the rest of the sale. A lot of places, almost every town or city has a bookstore or a comic book store. Don't be afraid to ask them, hey, can I sell my book on consignment? If they sell out, then you restock and you just keep doing that. If you have cities a couple hours away, again, don't be afraid to ask. So you can get yourself out in retailers. You might not make as much money, but again, it's eyes on your product. It's potential followers and backers. So that is my thoughts on selling and marketing outside of the internet. Thank you guys for listening. And don't forget, I think it's very important to promote others. So don't forget about Jimmy Reyes' Dragonrage, a high fantasy 40-page tale about dragons and royalty. Just check out the Indiegogo link below in the comments. Check out this beautiful art here. I mean, this is a project worth backing. This guy has worked for the big comic publishers and companies, and he's just a great, down-to-earth guy. I've worked with him personally. I can't speak highly enough about this guy. He walks the walk. He not only puts out great books, but he's also promoting others, bringing people into the community and supporting everybody. So please back Dragonrage. Let's get him to 38,000 before the end of the day. That's the goal that we've been trying to get this week. So please support other indies. And again, thank you everybody, and God bless.